Today, we're talking about what happens when a director like Quentin Tarantino decides to stop being polite and starts getting real. And let me tell you, it kicked up a serious firestorm in Hollywood. So, Quentin Tarantino, right? The guy behind Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill, a legend. Well, he went on a podcast recently and just did not hold back. He started dropping opinions on some of Hollywood's biggest names, and his totally unfiltered comments just sparked this massive debate that sent ripples all across the industry. Okay, let's get into it. We're going to unpack two of his most surprising critiques, the ones that have everybody talking. First, his absolute takedown of a really beloved actor, and then this weird paradox he revealed about a major comedy star. So our first case study here starts with a movie that Tarantino himself says is one of his favorites of the entire 21st century. We're talking about the 2007 classic, There Will Be Blood. He's just raving about this movie, heaping praise on it, calling it a near masterpiece. But, and it's a big but, he says there is one key thing that stops it from being absolutely perfect. And Tarantino's critique is just shockingly blunt. He doesn't just hint at a problem with the acting. Nope. He calls out the actor Paul Dano by name and basically says he is the single biggest thing wrong with the entire movie. See, his argument is that the whole film, which has Daniel Day-Lewis in this monster Oscar-winning role, was supposed to be a two-hander. This powerful face-off between two huge characters. But for him, Dano's performance just created this void. He called him a non-entity against a powerhouse like Day-Lewis. Ouch. And he wasn't done. When the podcast host kind of pushed back and suggested, hey, maybe Daniel Day-Lewis would have overshadowed anybody, Tarantino just doubled down, questioning the whole casting choice with this extreme hypothetical. As you can probably guess, comments that direct and that harsh do not just go unanswered. The response from the rest of Hollywood was fast, and it was overwhelmingly on Paul Dano's side. It felt like it happened almost immediately. Suddenly, you've got this wave of big names all over social media defending Dano. We're talking his director from The Batman, Matt Reeves, Ben Stiller, even Marvel star Simu Liu jumped in. And these weren't just, polite little disagreements. People were passionate. Ben Stiller's post is a pretty perfect example of the mood. And the actor Josh Gad flat out called Dano one of the best actors of our time, full stop. But then things got really interesting, a fascinating twist. Dano's co-star from the movie, Colleen Foy, shared this memory from the screening way back in 2007, and she claims Tarantino's reaction was completely different back then. She said his new comments were, quote, incongruent with his reaction that night. But wait, Paul Dano wasn't the only actor in Tarantino's crosshairs. On that same podcast, he got into this much more complicated and kind of paradoxical opinion about another really famous actor, Owen Wilson. And here is the central puzzle, right? On one hand, Tarantino says, I really can't stand Owen Wilson. But on the other hand, he says Wilson's 2011 movie, Midnight in Paris, is one of his absolute favorite films of the century. So, how does that work? He described watching it for the first time as this total mental battle. He's completely in love with the film, totally captivated by it, but at the exact same time, he's fighting this intense dislike he has for the guy on screen. But here's the thing. Unlike his super rigid take on Dano, his opinion on Wilson actually changed over time. What started as basically hate-watching slowly started to soften. By the third time he saw it, he wasn't just putting up with Wilson's performance, he was actively appreciating it, which just goes to show you, even a director's strongest opinions can shift. And we've got to remember, Owen Wilson's performance here wasn't some weird choice that only Tarantino disliked. It was critically acclaimed. The guy even got a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor for it.
Okay, so what's the big takeaway here? What are we supposed to make of these two very public and very different critiques from one of the most respected directors out there?
At the end of the day, this whole thing is just a really powerful reminder that art is, it's personal. It's subjective. What one of the world's greatest directors sees as a giant flaw, a whole industry rushes to defend as brilliant. And Tarantino's own changing mind on Owen Wilson proves that even our own strongest opinions aren't set in stone. Which kind of leaves us with this really provocative question, especially today. In an age where everyone has a microphone, what's the role of a powerful artist's critique? Where do we draw the line between brutal honesty that's meant to serve the art and a public takedown that just serves the ego? Yeah, That's something we're thinking about.